Commander Jake Morrison stood at the large window of Haven Prime's control center. The view showed rolling hills covered with mining equipment and small buildings. In the distance, massive machines dug deep into the ground, pulling out rare metals that Earth needed for their spaceships. The morning sun made everything look peaceful and quiet. "Sir, we have the daily reports ready," said Lieutenant Amy Carter as she walked up behind him. She carried a tablet with numbers and charts, showing how much metal they had mined yesterday. Jake turned around and smiled. "Good morning, Amy. How are the numbers looking today?" "Better than last week. The new mining equipment is working well. We should meet our monthly targets with no problems." Amy was always good with details. She had been his second in command for 3 years now, and Jake trusted her completely. Jake took the tablet and looked at the reports. Haven Prime was not a large colony, but it was important. The metals they mined here were used to build the hull armor for human spaceships. Without places like Haven Prime, Earth's fleet would be much weaker. "Any word from the other colonies in the sector?" Jake asked. Amy's face became more serious. "Yes, sir. Colony 7 reported some strange signals at the edge of their system. Yesterday, long-range sensors picked up something, but it disappeared before they could get a clear reading." Jake frowned. Strange signals usually meant one of two things: either pirates looking for easy targets, or something much worse. "Have you sent this information to Earth Command?" "I sent it this morning. No response yet, but you know how slow communication can be across this distance." Jake nodded. Messages to Earth took almost a week to travel through hyperspace. By the time they got an answer, whatever was causing the strange signals could be long gone, or much closer than anyone wanted. The control center was busy with people working at their stations. Most of them were miners and technicians, not soldiers. Haven Prime had a small security force of 20 people, but they were trained to handle mining accidents and local problems, not military threats. "Sir?" called out Tony Kim from the communications station. "I'm getting reports from the shipping lanes." 3 cargo ships reported seeing large groups of unknown ships moving through the outer systems. Jake and Amy walked over to Tony's station. The young man looked worried as he showed them the messages on his screen. "Look at this, sir. The cargo ship Star Trader says they saw over 50 ships moving together. That's not normal for pirates. Pirates usually work in small groups." Amy read the message over Jake's shoulder. "This doesn't sound good. 50 ships is a fleet, not a raiding party." Jake felt a cold feeling in his stomach. He had been a soldier before becoming a colony commander. He knew what it meant when large groups of unknown ships started moving toward human space. "Tony, try to contact the other colonies in our sector. I want to know if anyone else has seen these unknown ships." "Yes, sir." Jake walked back to the window and looked out at the peaceful mining operation. The workers below had no idea that danger might be coming their way. They went about their jobs, thinking about their families back on Earth, or the money they were saving, or what they would do when their contracts ended. "Amy, what's the status of our defense systems?" "We have 6 orbital defense platforms around the planet. Each one has missile launchers and energy weapons. Our small fleet has 12 ships, mostly light cruisers and destroyers. Captain Helen Davis commands the fleet from the UHS Defender." Jake knew those numbers by heart, but hearing them out loud made him realize how small their defenses really were. 12 ships and 6 platforms would not last long against a real military fleet. "Sir," Tony called out again, "I'm getting a priority message from Earth Command." "Put it on the main screen." The large screen at the front of the control center showed Admiral Lisa Brooks sitting at her desk on Earth. She looked tired and worried. "All colony commanders in the Kepler sector," she began. "We have received intelligence reports about a large alien fleet moving toward your area. The Zephyrian Empire has been attacking colonies in the Outer Rim for the past 6 months. Their fleet is estimated to have over 200 ships. Jake felt his heart sink. 200 ships. That was more than the entire human defense fleet. In this part of space, Admiral Brooks continued, "We are sending all available reinforcements, but they will not arrive for several days. All colonies should prepare for possible attack. Follow standard evacuation procedures if necessary. Earth Command will continue to monitor the situation." The message ended, leaving the control center in complete silence. Everyone stared at the blank screen, trying to understand what they had just heard. Amy was the first to speak. 200 ships. That's 10 times larger than our entire sector defense force. Jake turned to face his people. They were all looking at him, waiting for orders. These were good people. Miners, engineers, communication specialists. They had signed up to work on a peaceful colony, not fight in a war. "All right, everyone listen up," Jake said in a calm, steady voice. "We have work to do. Tony, send messages to all department heads. I want them in the conference room in 1 hour. Amy, contact Captain Davis and ask her to come down to the surface for a meeting. What about the evacuation procedures?" Amy asked. Quietly, Jake looked out the window again at the mining equipment and the workers below. "Not yet. We don't know if the Zephyrians are really coming here. Let's gather information first, then make decisions." But even as he said it, Jake knew they were probably coming. The Zephyrians were known for their aggressive expansion. They conquered planets for their resources and enslaved the populations. Places like Haven Prime, with valuable mining operations, would be perfect targets. Far away, in the cold darkness between the stars, something else was moving. Hidden in the asteroid belt beyond Neptune, a massive ship powered up its engines. For the first time in 2 years, the ship had been waiting, invisible and silent, for exactly this kind of situation. Captain Ryan Foster looked at the activation codes that had just appeared on his command screen. After 2 years of waiting and watching, the UHS Thunderbolt was finally being called into action. "Chief Engineer Katie Bell to the bridge," he said into his communicator. "All senior officers report for duty. This is not a drill." The Thunderbolt was unlike any ship in the human fleet. It was larger, faster, and more heavily armed than anything the galaxy had ever seen. Its stealth systems could make it completely invisible to all known sensors. Its weapons were based on technology that most scientists said was impossible. For 30 years, the galaxy had seen humans as a weak species. They were good at mining and farming, but not much of a threat to anyone. The major alien empires barely paid attention to Earth and its small colonies. Soon, that was going to change. The edge of the Kepler system exploded with light as over 200 ships dropped out of hyperspace. The Zephyrian fleet appeared like a deadly storm cloud, their dark ships blocking out the stars behind them. Fleet Commander Vextar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Death's Edge. He was 7 feet tall with gray skin and 4 arms, each one ending in sharp claws. His yellow eyes scanned the tactical display, showing the human colony ahead of them. "Report," he ordered in his harsh voice. "Sir, sensors show 1 inhabited planet with orbital mining platforms. Small defense fleet detected 12 ships total. 6 orbital weapon platforms around the planet," reported his science officer. Vextar laughed, a sound like metal scraping against stone. 12 ships? The humans are even weaker than our intelligence reports suggested. This will be over quickly. Behind him, dozens of Zephyrian officers worked at their stations. The bridge was dark and cold, with red lighting that gave everything an evil look. Screens showed the positions of all their ships, heavy cruisers, destroyers, and massive carrier ships filled with fighter craft. "Open a channel to the human colony," Vextar commanded. On Haven Prime, alarms began ringing throughout the control center. Jake Morrison rushed to his command station as Tony Kim worked frantically at the communications board. "Sir, we're detecting a massive fleet at the edge of the system. Sensors show over 200 ships." Amy Carter ran to the tactical display. "My God, look at the size of some of those ships. Their flagship is 3 times larger than our biggest cruiser." Jake stared at the screen in disbelief. He had hoped the Zephyrians might send a small raiding force, something their defenses could handle. But this was a full invasion fleet, big enough to conquer an entire sector. "Sir, incoming transmission from the alien fleet," Tony announced. "Put it on the main screen." The image of Fleet Commander Vexstar filled the screen. His alien face was terrifying, with scars across his cheeks and metal implants around his eyes. When he spoke, his voice was cold and full of hatred. "Humans of the Kepler sector, I am Fleet Commander Vexstar of the Zephyrian Empire. Your pathetic species has controlled these resources for too long. You will surrender immediately and prepare for occupation." Jake stepped forward, trying to keep his voice steady. "This is Commander Jake Morrison of Haven Prime. We are a peaceful mining colony under the protection of the Galactic Alliance. Your attack is a violation of interstellar law." Vexstar's laugh echoed through the control center. "Your Galactic Alliance is weak, human. They will not come to save you. You have 1 hour to surrender your defenses and prepare for our arrival. Resist, and every human in this system will die." The transmission ended, leaving Jake staring at a blank screen. Around him, his people looked terrified. They had all heard stories about what happened to colonies that fell to the Zephyrians. The aliens did not treat prisoners well. "Amy, get me Captain Davis right now," Jake ordered. "Already on it, sir." Within minutes, Captain Helen Davis appeared on the screen. She was aboard the UHS Defender, her flagship, somewhere between Haven Prime and the approaching alien fleet. Behind her, Jake could see her bridge crew working at their stations, preparing for battle. "Commander Morrison, I've seen the enemy fleet. This is worse than anything we expected." "What's our situation, Captain?" Helen's face was grim. "My 12 ships against their 200. We can't win a direct fight, but we might be able to slow them down long enough for the civilians to evacuate." Jake looked around the control center. How long would evacuation take? Amy checked her tablet. "At least 6 hours to get everyone to the transport ships. Maybe 8 hours to get them all away from the planet." "We don't have 8 hours," Helen said from the screen. "Maybe we can give you 2 hours, 3 at the most." Jake felt the weight of command pressing down on him. Thousands of people on Haven Prime were counting on him to make the right decision. But every choice seemed to lead to disaster. "Sir," Tony called out from his station, "I'm getting a message from Earth Command. Put Admiral Brooks on screen." "Admiral." Lisa Brooks appeared, but the image was fuzzy and broken up. The distance made real-time communication almost impossible. "Commander Morrison, we have received your reports about the Zephyrian fleet. All available reinforcements are being sent to your location, but they won't arrive for at least 4 days." Jake's heart sank. 4 days was too long. The battle would be over in a few hours. "I'm sorry, Commander," the Admiral continued. "Do what you can to protect the civilians. Follow standard evacuation procedures. Earth Command will not forget your sacrifice." The message ended with a burst of static. Jake realized that Earth was basically telling them they were on their own. "Sir," Amy said quietly, "there was something else in the message. A coded section that I'm still trying to decode." Before Jake could answer, Tony shouted from his station, "Sir, the alien fleet is moving. They're heading straight for us." On his ship, Fleet Commander Vexstar watched the tactical display with satisfaction. The human ships were forming up in a defensive line between his fleet and the planet. It was brave but stupid. "Sir, the humans are positioning their ships to fight," reported his tactical officer. "Good. We will destroy them quickly and then begin the planetary bombardment. Ready all weapons." The Zephyrian fleet moved forward like a wall of death. Their ships were designed for war, with thick armor and powerful weapons. Each of their heavy cruisers carried more firepower than 3 human ships combined. Captain Helen Davis stood on the bridge of the UHS Defender, watching the enemy fleet approach. Her 12 ships looked tiny compared to the alien armada, but her crews were well-trained and determined. "All ships, this is Captain Davis. We know we're outnumbered, but we have a job to do. Every minute we delay them is another minute for the civilians to escape. Make every shot count." Her weapons officer, Lieutenant Carl Johnson, checked his targeting systems. "Mom, should we target their flagship?" "No, go for their smaller ships first. We might be able to take a few of them with us." Helen knew this was probably her last battle. Her ships were brave, but bravery alone would not stop 200 enemy vessels. Still, she had sworn an oath to protect human colonies, and she would keep that oath until the end. Back on Haven Prime, Jake Morrison made the hardest decision of his life. "Amy, begin emergency evacuation procedures. Get the transport ships ready, and start moving civilians to the spaceport." "Yes, sir." "Tony, send a message to all department heads. Tell them we're evacuating, but keep it calm. No panic." As his people rushed to carry out his orders, Jake looked out the window one more time. The mining equipment was still working, the machines still digging metals from the ground. In a few hours, all of this would probably be destroyed. Somewhere. In deep space, Captain Ryan Foster received Amy Carter's decoded message. It was just a few words. "Thunderbolt authorized. Full discretion. Save them if you can." Ryan looked at the message for a long moment, then turned to his crew. "All hands, battle stations. We're going to war." The UHS Thunderbolt began moving toward the Kepler system, its stealth systems making it completely invisible. The ship's experimental engines pushed it faster than any vessel in known space. Soon, the Zephyrians would learn that humans were not as weak as they appeared. The first shots of the battle lit up space like deadly fireworks. Captain Helen Davis watched from the bridge of the UHS Defender as her small fleet engaged the massive Zephyrian armada. The human ships darted between the larger alien vessels, firing their weapons and trying to avoid the return fire. "Direct hit on enemy destroyer," called out Lieutenant Carl Johnson from the weapons station. "Their shields are down," Helen nodded grimly. "Good shooting, Carl. Target their engines and finish them off." The human ships were faster and more maneuverable than the Zephyrian vessels, but they were hopelessly outnumbered. For every alien ship they damaged, 10 more moved in to take its place. Helen knew they could not win, but every minute they fought gave the civilians on Haven Prime more time to escape. On the planet below, Jake Morrison coordinated the evacuation from the control center. Transport ships were landing at the spaceport and loading civilians as quickly as possible. Families grabbed whatever they could carry and rushed aboard the vessels. "Sir, we have 3,000 people evacuated so far," Amy Carter reported. "But there are still over 7,000 left on the planet." Jake looked at the tactical display. The battle in space was not going well for the human fleet. 2 of their ships had already been destroyed, and the others were taking heavy damage. "How much more time do we need?" Jake asked. "At least 4 more hours to get everyone off the planet." Jake knew they did not have 4 hours. Maybe they had 1 hour, if Captain Davis and her crews could perform miracles. In space, the UHS Defender shook as enemy fire hit its shields. Sparks flew from damaged control panels, and the lights flickered. Shields down to 30%. shouted the engineer. Helen gripped her command chair as another blast rocked the ship. Return fire. Target their weapon systems. The human fleet was fighting bravely, but they were being pushed back toward the planet. The Zephyrian ships advanced in perfect formation, their massive guns tearing apart anything in their path. Commander Vextar watched the battle with satisfaction. The humans were putting up more of a fight than expected, but the outcome was never in doubt. Soon, his ships would begin bombarding the planet below. "Sir, we have destroyed 4 human ships," reported his tactical officer. "The remaining 8 are falling back toward the planet." "Excellent. Begin moving the bombardment ships into position. Once we finish off their fleet, we will destroy their orbital platforms and begin ground attack." Vextar was already planning how to use Haven Prime's mining equipment for the Zephyrian Empire. The metals from this world would help build more ships for future conquests. But something strange was happening in the battle zone that none of the Zephyrian sensors detected. Ships began exploding for no apparent reason. First, it was a destroyer on the outer edge of the formation. The ship simply erupted in a ball of fire and debris with no visible cause. What happened to the Star Killer? Vextar demanded. His science officer checked his instruments frantically. "Sir, I show no enemy ships in that area. No missile launches. No energy weapon discharges. The ship just exploded." Before Vextar could respond, another ship exploded, then another. Panic began to spread through the Zephyrian fleet as vessels were destroyed by an invisible enemy. All ships spread out and scan continuously. Vextar ordered, "Find whatever is attacking us." Captain Ryan Foster stood on the bridge of the UHS Thunderbolt, watching the battle through the ship's advanced sensors. His vessel hung invisible in space, its stealth systems making it undetectable to any known technology. "Target acquired," reported Lieutenant Danny Walsh from the weapons station. "Zephyrian heavy cruiser, bearing 270. Fire quantum torpedo," Ryan ordered calmly. The Thunderbolt's most advanced weapon launched silently through space. The quantum torpedo existed in a state between dimensions, making it impossible to detect until the moment of impact. The Zephyrian cruiser never knew what hit it. Direct hit. "Target destroyed," Danny reported. "Next target, Lieutenant." Chief Engineer Katie Bell monitored the ship's systems from her station. The Thunderbolt was operating perfectly, its experimental technology working exactly as designed. For 2 years, they had tested and refined these systems. Now, it was time to show the galaxy what human engineering could accomplish. "Captain, all systems are running at peak efficiency," Katie reported. "Quantum torpedoes are loaded and ready. Stealth field is holding steady," Ryan nodded. "Good work, Chief." "Danny, continue targeting their larger ships. Let's thin out their numbers before we reveal ourselves." The Thunderbolt moved through the Zephyrian fleet like a ghost, destroying ships without being seen. The aliens fired wildly in all directions, trying to hit an enemy they could not detect. Their formations broke apart as captains tried to avoid. The invisible attacker. On Haven Prime, Jake Morrison watched the tactical display in amazement. The alien fleet, which had been advancing steadily toward the planet, was now in complete chaos. Ships were exploding throughout their formation, but the sensors showed no cause for the destruction. "What's happening up there?" Amy asked, staring. At the screen. "I don't know," Jake replied. "But something is attacking the Zephyrian fleet. Something they can't see or detect." Tony Kim looked up from his communication station. "Sir, I'm getting reports from Captain Davis. She says enemy ships are being destroyed by an unknown force. Her sensors can't detect anything either." Jake felt a spark of hope for the first time since the battle began. Maybe, somehow, they had a chance after all. In space, Captain Helen Davis watched in disbelief as the Zephyrian fleet tore itself apart, trying to find an invisible enemy. Her remaining ships had pulled back to a safe distance, no longer under direct attack, as the aliens focused on the unknown threat. "Mom, what should we do?" asked Lieutenant Carl Johnson. "Hold position and keep scanning. I want to know what's out there helping us." Helen had been a military officer for 15 years, but she had never seen anything like this. Ships were being destroyed by weapons that left no trace, by an attacker that remained completely hidden. Fleet Commander Vextar was losing his composure as more of his ships exploded around him. In less than 10 minutes, he had lost over 30 vessels to an enemy he could not see or fight. "Sir, recommend we retreat and regroup," suggested his tactical officer. "No," Vextar snarled. "We are the Zephyrian Empire. We do not retreat from inferior species." But even as he spoke, another of his heavy cruisers vanished in a ball of fire. His fleet was being picked apart piece by piece, and he had no way to fight back. Captain Ryan Foster decided it was time to end a game of hide-and-seek. The Zephyrian fleet was in disarray, their formation broken and their morale shattered. Now they needed to see what they were really facing. "All stations, prepare to decloak," Ryan announced. "Katie, bring us to full power. Danny, charge all weapon systems." "Aye, sir," both officers responded. The Thunderbolt positioned itself in the center of the Zephyrian formation, surrounded by enemy ships. Ryan looked around at his crew, 150 men and women who had trained for this moment. They were about to reveal humanity's greatest secret to the galaxy. "Decloak the ship," Ryan ordered. The stealth field around the Thunderbolt dissolved like morning mist. Suddenly, a massive human warship appeared in the middle of the alien fleet as if it had materialized from thin air. The ship was enormous, larger than any vessel in the Zephyrian Armada, its hull covered with weapon systems that looked nothing like standard. Human technology got every sensor in the alien fleet locked onto the mysterious ship. For a moment, there was complete silence as both sides stared at each other across the void. Then Fleet Commander Vextar found his voice. "What is that thing?" His science officer checked his readings 3 times before answering. "Sir, it appears to be a human warship, but it's unlike anything in our databases. The energy readings are off the charts." Vextar stared at the massive ship on his screen. He had spent years studying human military capabilities. Their ships were small and lightly armed compared to Zephyrian vessels. But this monster was bigger than his own flagship, and it bristled with weapons he did not recognize. How did they build something like that without us knowing? He whispered Dot on Haven Prime. Jake Morrison stared at the tactical display in shock. A human ship had appeared in the middle of the enemy fleet. A ship larger than anything Earth had ever built. "Amy, are you seeing this?" "Yes, sir." "That ship is not in any of our fleet databases. Where did it come from?" Before Jake could answer, the mysterious ship opened a communication channel. The image of Captain Ryan Foster appeared on the screen, a calm, confident human officer in a uniform Jake did not recognize. "Attention all human forces in the Kepler system. This is Captain Ryan Foster of the UHS Thunderbolt. We are taking command of this engagement. All civilian and military vessels are to maintain safe distance and observe." Jake found his voice. "Captain Foster, this is Commander Morrison on Haven Prime. Who are you? Where did your ship come from?" Ryan's expression was serious, but reassuring. "Commander, we are a classified human defense unit. That's all you need to know for now. Please continue your evacuation procedures. This battle will be concluded shortly." The transmission ended, leaving Jake with more questions than answers. But for the first time since the Zephyrians arrived, he felt real hope. The mysterious ship had already destroyed dozens of enemy vessels while remaining invisible. Now that it was revealed, Perhaps it could save them all. Fleet Commander Vextar stared at the massive human warship that had appeared in the center of his fleet. His 4 hands gripped the arms of his command chair as he tried to understand what he was seeing. The ship was impossible, larger than his own flagship and covered with weapons that did not match any human technology in his databases. All ships, target that vessel and fire, he commanded. The Zephyrian fleet opened fire with everything they had. Hundreds of energy beams and missile salvos converged on the UHS Thunderbolt from all directions. The space around the human ship lit up like a deadly fireworks display as the alien weapons struck their target. But when the light faded, the Thunderbolt remained completely undamaged. The alien weapons had been stopped by some kind of energy shield that rippled around the ship like water. Not a single shot had penetrated the barrier. Captain Ryan Foster stood calmly on his bridge, watching the enemy fire bounce harmlessly off. His ship's defensive systems. Chief Bell, status report on the shields. Absorbing all incoming fire. At 12% capacity, sir. Their weapons are not even scratching us. Ryan nodded. The Thunderbolt's defensive fields were based on technology, decades ahead of anything the galaxy had seen. The Zephyrian weapons might as well have been throwing rocks. Lieutenant Walsh, you may begin the demonstration. Danny Walsh smiled as he targeted the nearest enemy cruiser. Aye, sir. Firing plasma cannon. A brilliant blue beam erupted from the Thunderbolt's forward weapons array. The energy blast cut through the Zephyrian cruiser's shields like they were not even there, then tore through the hull armor like paper. The enemy ship broke apart in seconds, its reactor exploding in a chain reaction that lit up the surrounding space. That the Zephyrian fleet fell silent, stunned by what they had just witnessed. One shot from the human ship had completely destroyed a heavy cruiser that should have been able to withstand sustained bombardment. Sir, the Zephyrian science officer whispered to Vextar, that energy beam cut right through military grade armor plating. Our shields would not stop a weapon like that. Vextar felt fear creeping into his mind for the first time in his military career. How is this possible? Human technology is not this advanced. Captain Ryan Foster opened a communication channel to the entire Zephyrian fleet. His image appeared on every alien ship's main screen, his expression calm and confident. I am Captain Ryan Foster of the Human Colonial Defense Force. You have attacked human territory and threatened human lives. This was a mistake. You are about to learn why humanity has survived in a hostile galaxy for 30 years. The transmission ended, and the Thunderbolt began moving through the alien formation like a predator stalking its prey. Target the carrier ships first, Ryan ordered. Let's remove their fighter support. The Thunderbolt's weapon systems came alive. Plasma cannons that ignored enemy shields completely. Kinetic railguns that fired projectiles at incredible speeds, punching through the thickest armor like it was thin metal. Energy weapons that seemed to tear holes in reality itself. Each shot was perfectly aimed and devastatingly effective. The massive Zephyrian carrier ships, which had seemed so threatening just minutes before, exploded one after another. There, fighter craft launched desperately, but the Thunderbolt's point defense systems swatted them aside like insects. Lieutenant Danny Walsh worked with mechanical efficiency, his hands dancing over the weapon controls. Carrier Group Alpha destroyed. Sir, moving to target the heavy cruisers. Excellent work, Lieutenant. Chief Bell, how are our power levels? Katie Bell checked her displays. Running at optimal levels, sir. These weapons barely register on our power grid. We could keep this up for hours. Ryan watched the tactical display as his ship systematically dismantled the Zephyrian fleet. Each alien vessel that tried to fight back was destroyed within seconds. Those that tried to flee found their engines disabled by precise shots. That left them drifting helplessly in space. On Haven Prime, Jake Morrison watched the battle in amazement. The mysterious human ship was not just winning. It was completely dominating a fleet that had seemed invincible just minutes before. Amy, are you recording all of this? Yes, sir. Every shot, every maneuver. This is going to change everything. We thought we knew about human military capabilities. Tony Kim looked up from his communication station, his eyes wide with disbelief. Sir, the alien fleet has lost over half their ships in less than 5 minutes. I've never seen anything like this. Captain Helen Davis watched from the bridge of the UHS Defender as the Thunderbolt carved through the enemy formation. Her small fleet had been prepared to die, trying to buy time for the evacuation. Now they were witnessing the complete destruction of an enemy armada by a single human ship. Ma'am, said Lieutenant Carl Johnson, should we move in to assist? Helen shook her head. No, Lieutenant. Stay back and observe. I don't think they need our help. She was right. The Thunderbolt needed no assistance. The ship moved through the Zephyrian fleet like it was conducting a training exercise, each shot calculated for maximum effect. There was no wasted motion, no unnecessary destruction. Just professional, overwhelming force applied with surgical precision. Fleet Commander Vextar watched his armada being destroyed around him. Ships that had conquered entire star systems were being vaporized by weapons he could not understand. His tactical display showed enemy after enemy disappearing from the grid. Sir, we have lost 60% of our fleet, his tactical officer reported, his voice shaking. Recommend immediate retreat. All ships fall back. Vextar ordered full retreat. But the Thunderbolt was not finished with them. As the Zephyrian ships tried to turn and flee, the human vessel moved to block their escape route. Its massive bulk positioned itself between the aliens and the edge of the system. Captain Ryan Foster opened another channel to the alien fleet. Fleet Commander Vextar, you are not leaving this system. Your invasion ends here. Human, you do not understand what you are doing. Vextar replied, his voice filled with desperation. The Zephyrian Empire has thousands of ships. This is just one small fleet. Ryan's expression remained calm. Then perhaps you should have thought of that before attacking human colonies. Your empire sent you here to conquer and destroy. Now, you will face the consequences. The Thunderbolt's weapons resumed firing, but now with even more devastating effect. The ship's railguns launched projectiles that punched completely through multiple enemy vessels at once. Energy weapons reached out across impossible distances to cripple ships trying to escape. Lieutenant Danny Walsh had settled into a steady rhythm. Destroyer group eliminated. 3 cruisers disabled. Enemy flagship attempting to flee. Let them run a little, Ryan said. I want them to understand how hopeless their situation is. The Zephyrian flagship Death's Edge accelerated toward the edge of the system, its engines straining to reach escape velocity. Behind it, the rest of the alien fleet was being systematically destroyed. Fleet Commander Vextar stood on his bridge, watching his life's work being undone by a single enemy ship. He had served the Zephyrian Empire for 40 years, conquered dozens of worlds, commanded fleets that had made entire species surrender without firing a shot. Now he was running for his life from humans, the species his people had dismissed as weak and primitive. Sir, the human ship is following us, reported his helmsman. They're gaining on us. Vextar looked at the tactical display. The Thunderbolt was moving faster than should have been possible for a ship of its size. It's advanced. Engines outperforming anything in the Zephyrian fleet. Communications. Open a channel to the human captain. Vextar ordered. Ryan Foster's face appeared on the screen, still calm and composed despite the destruction his ship had just caused. Fleet Commander, you wish to surrender? Human, I offer you terms. Spare my flagship, and I will order all Zephyrian forces to withdraw from this sector. You have proven your point. Ryan considered this for a moment. You invaded human space, threatened human lives, and came here to conquer and enslave. Why should I spare you? Because if you destroy us completely, the Empire will send an even larger fleet to investigate. You may have advanced weapons, but you are still just one ship. One ship was all we needed, Ryan replied. But I will consider your offer. Stand down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. You will surrender as prisoners of war, and your surviving crew will carry a message back to your empire. Vex Star felt his pride breaking, but he had no choice. His great invasion fleet had been reduced to a handful of damaged ships by a single human vessel. I accept your terms. The Death's Edge powered down its weapons and stopped trying to flee. Around it, the few surviving Zephyrian ships did the same, their captains realizing that resistance was futile. Captain Ryan Foster looked around his bridge at his crew. They had performed flawlessly, turning what should have been a massacre of human colonists into a complete victory for Earth.